Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the show, the Simply Put podcast show to be more specific. I'm your host, James, and today we're going to be talking about the Resident Evil 7 beginning hour demo. Now that the game is about to come out fairly soon on, is it the 24th of this month, on January, I think we can talk about the demo now and how it sets things up and how good or bad it is. And finally, I hope we get answers to I hope the demo is like this. I hope we get some closure fairly soon. So Resident Evil 7 is made by Capcom, who makes the other Resident Evil games, some good, some bad, plus some fighting games, and once they did a Mega Man way back in the day. It was released on the June of 13th of June, should I say, of last year. Got critical acclaim, didn't it? It was great. It was a great time for everybody. And essentially, your goal in the game is to escape the house that you're in, and something's going on inside it. Yes, it's certainly a horror experience if you haven't played it before. Me personally, overall, the Resident Evil series has been quite a rocky road, and I think it's the same for most people. In the span of 4 to 6, Resident Evil 4 to 6, there is a severe difference in theming and style and tone of each one of those games. 4 being my personal favourite and the majority favourite, and 5, it was okay, and 6 was basically insane. It made no sense, but it was a thing, I guess, and so there was not really any expectations for this game, or the demo at least, and so certainly changed some people's opinions, I think. I think it made some waves in what Resident Evil is and what it will become. So without further ado, let's go into the good section, and the first thing I want to bring up is it's what a demo should be. Usually a demo in a game is either a short snippet, either an hour of gameplay or 15 minutes of gameplay, whereas the Resident Evil 7 beginning hour is essentially a standalone piece of content. And that's the interesting thing, is that it isn't a part of the game, it's a complement to the game. And it makes it feel like it's its own entity, but at the same time a part of the world. And it's not just a product, it's not just 15 minutes cut up, this is 45 to an hour of pure standalone horror experience. And it's funny to acknowledge that, because what's also interesting is that only horror games have started to do this, such as PT did it very famously, and Outlast. And it brings up a question of why. Why is it just horror games? And I think it comes down to PT being the first, really, the true groundbreaker of what a demo and playtest should be, and it really solidified in the horror genre, I think. And that being said, I hope it goes into other genres. You know, it makes you wonder, what would a FPS look like in a demo form if it was done in the same style as a Resident Evil 7 demo. It's things like that that make you wonder where demos are going, and hopefully they go in that direction, because they're very interesting, they're very good, you know, and it just adds a new breath of creativity. And the reason for this is because it's so focused. It's such a small chunk of gameplay. It can focus on a single message and a single thing it wants to express to its fullest, and that's why it does so well. Whereas the full game itself is a big scope of pacing and how can it say all the things it wants to say without going on for too long and things like that. And again, the final point of that is that these demos, the PTs and the Outlasts, is that they complement. They really do complement the overall game. That being said though, all this being said, Resident Evil 7 at least will be the first to actually released with a demo alongside it. Whereas PT was cancelled and Outlast 2 is not out yet, this will be the first to really decide whether or not they do complement each other, whether or not they fit in, whether or not it was necessary as well. And another quick note about the demo itself is that the marketing behind it. Because everybody who was and is talking about the beginning hour are talking about it not as a demo itself, as an actual standalone game, which I think is genius if you think about it. So overall, yes, the Resident Evil 7 beginning hour demo concept overall gets to be in the good section of today's show. Going to the second good thing is simply it's genuinely horrifying. By far, the best feature of Resident Evil 7 Beginning Hour is how it expresses its horror. Horror in itself, especially in video gaming, is so tough to get right. So many mistakes can happen, from the little intricacies such as timing, the overall setup, the atmosphere, so many other little ideas that you have to get right in a horror game to make it truly horrifying. So many other games that are supposedly scary, such as Five Nights at Freddy's and Slender, really aren't, because they do miss those factors that do make a horrifying experience horrifying. You're more scared of the anticipation in those games than the actual things themselves. And so that brings it all back to Resident Evil 7. And because of its graphical fidelity, it looks stunning. Despite it being disgusting, it looks stunning. It has its pacing down to each bump and to each jump. And even the ending as a whole, the ending of the demo, is a horror experience within itself. And it just captures what Resident Evil started out to be. In the beginning, you was put in a place you didn't know and was foreign to you, and you had to figure out how you can survive. So the brilliance of Resident Evil 7's demo is you can't actually survive. You can't win the demo, you just play it and experience it. Which again, that brings up a small discussion on whether or not the game itself, the full game, will deliver on this. Because in the final game, you have to somewhat win the game. I mean, you could die at the end, but there is always a way to win in some degree, and also get that pacing down in a fully fledged game will be quite difficult. So it's such a bigger scope, it is quite a concern. The demo, however, has that perfect mixture. It has the paranormal in there, it has the gore, it has the violence, all grounded and all put together so perfectly by simply putting it in a house. I think that's why it fits so perfectly, is that I've mentioned this trope before, and if you're going to have something so insane and so crazy like the concept of zombies and things like that, there has to be something that grounds you in reality, something in the story or the world that makes it believable. Usually it's told through the character itself, so you're the person experiencing it, but the demo really captures the horror, and it brings it to the edge of it feeling genuinely real. Thoughts go into your head of, this is a house, this could exist, this could be my house right now, and things like that start to creep and really heighten the experience. So overall, the Resident Evil 7 Beginning Hour is indeed a great horror experience due to the awareness of, and the developer's awareness of, how horror in an interactive medium can actually work. And so those are practically my good thoughts on the demo, or something I can talk about. So some quick mentions before we move on to the bad parts of the demo is I also really liked the videotape portion, where you put the VHS tape in and you get teleported in and it's back in time, and how usually in a gaming situation that would be told through a cutscene. Most likely would have been told through a cutscene, and the fact that it wasn't and it was playable really added that breath of fresh air, and again solidified it in feeling like you are there. And I also appreciate the added content that was patched into the demo to some extent. Not entirely happy with it, and I'll explain in the bad section, but I think it's a good thing that they added more content to it. So yes, the bad of Resident Evil 7 Beginning Hour. And the fundamental, complete worst part of Resident Evil 7 Beginning Hour is the mannequin finger. Yes. Yep, you all know what I'm talking about. And yes, I am aware that there has been a content patch using it, and it has been patched in to have some use. Months after, mind you. This is months after. And here's the thing. The mannequin finger as a concept was done on purpose, and I'll explain. The primary reason that mannequin finger was in there was to build hype and to waste people's time. Maybe not to waste people's time, but it was used to build hype, false hype. And if you've seen my previous videos, you know I absolutely hate it when a developer purposely puts something in a game that means absolutely nothing, only to build a false narrative or the hype or the artificial mystery behind it. It is definitively manipulation. It is. It is manipulation at the end of the day. And why, you would ask? Well, no one's getting hurt. It's a marketing ploy that when you realise there's actually nothing of value other than the fantasies and the implications inside your head, it's definitively manipulation. You're not getting anything out of it. There's nothing going on apart from them, the developer, benefiting from the advertisements, the possible future purchases of the game, etc. And I think it's definitely the developer's responsibility to take care and handle the situation. If there's ever an implication there could be more of something, or this doesn't make quite much sense. And in Resident Evil's situation, I understand why they didn't say there wasn't something, because they was going to patch something later. But I think patching the demo with more content that should have been there, in my personal opinion, in the beginning, was a bad decision. And I think because it was so clearly very calculated on the marketing side, it purposely held back information for people to decide more. There was no need or reason for that mannequin finger to be there in the first place, without them knowing to patch something later. But the reason why they did patch things later, no doubt, was to say hey, we're the good guys, we patched more content for you, it adds to it. No, it doesn't. It was purposely held back for marketing reasons. And it was so clear. I disagree with that mentality so strongly, because if this becomes the norm in the gaming industry, more and more instances will become this drip-fed, unfinished product, which, might I add, is actually already a thing on the Steam front, especially with the early access programs. Some people do exploit it, and sure, you could argue that Resident Evil 7's demo was good enough, before the patches, and I would somewhat agree with that. But it's a big but, okay, to include the mannequin finger only left to elongate that false narrative they said, they didn't say it, but they implied a false narrative of there being something more with it. And again, that is manipulation, definitively. It's like if I tried to sell air, it's bad practice. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the only bad thing in Resident Evil Beginning Hour for me, personally. Overall, it is a fantastic demo, especially now after all the patches it's had, and before the actual game releases on January the 24th, now's the time more than ever to jump in if you haven't already. It is a great demo. So thank you so much for watching. If you have, if you enjoyed my discussion, feel free to like this video, share it, so it can spread like the T-virus. Oh no. Oh, that was cringy, wasn't it? Oh well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I upload frequently these types of commentaries on video games in the industry as a whole. So it's all good fun. We have fun here. And not just that, I've also started a how-to series in an attempt to give back that little bit and all the fun stuff. So again, thank you so much for watching. I have been James, and you have just watched the Simply Put podcast show. Goodbye.